give a warm welcome to Founding President and CEO Meezan Bank Limited, Mr. Irfan Siddiqui.
Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Really good to see so many people from abroad as well. Some of my friends who are on the board with AOFI in Bahrain. So welcome to Pakistan, all of you. And Dr. Ishra Saab, thank you so much for chairing this today. I'll start off by really thanking Dr. Ishra to really sow the seed of Islamic banking in Pakistan. We've actually thanked Samar Saab and everybody else from the department. But I think it goes back to the year 2001 and 2002, where we wanted to convert Al Meezan Investment Bank, which was a very small investment bank with 20, 25 people at that time, into a commercial bank because there was an opportunity to acquire Society General, 4 branches in Pakistan. And from the day I met Dr. Ishrat Hussain in his office, after 90 days, the bank was actually merged with Society General. And I think after a lapse of about 15 years, the first license of a bank was issued for an Islamic commercial bank. So thank you, Dr. Ishrat. So I think we would always remember that very passionately. All the favors. Next project. Who's controlling this? I have to control it, or Raza? Who's going to do this? Achha, okay. Please, I think somebody can be here. Right. The Islamic banking market share at the last IBA WIFF conference, which was in March 2018, was only 14.5%. Not a bad number, but that was only 3 years ago. And in those 3 years, it's gone up from 14.5% to roughly 19.5%. So an incremental of 5%, I think by any standard is very good. And really thank you, Samar Saab and the entire team for making it happen. I think the support which we got from the central bank right from the time I mentioned about Dr. Ishrat Hussain's involvement, up to now, every single governor supported this. And that's why it's come all that way. And the more important thing is that what you see in the slide is the SBP vision for Islamic banking by year 2025 of getting to 30%. I hope we can get there. Obviously, the issuance of sukuk is really happening fast now. But over the last 2 years, it had slowed down a little bit, as a result of which, obviously, if there's no sukuk, then it's difficult for the industry to grow. But hopefully, we can be there at 30%. But my main emphasis, next slide please, in this conference today was to see where we stand as a whole industry. So if you take the whole pie of 100%, the banking industry, so 9% is represented by Islamic windows of conventional banks, and 11% is occupied by the full-fledged Islamic banks. I think there are 5 of them. So roughly half and half. Contribution by the conventional windows and dedicated Islamic banks. But I think with this, what Raza mentioned in his introduction, that with the decision of the court to convert more into Islamic and given some benchmarks, I think what we really need to focus is on that red part of the pie chart, which is 9% represented by the conventional bank. I think this is the seed where Islamic banking will grow, because the 11% is obviously dedicated Islamic banks. They can only grow so much, and so, to whatever extent, it's all based on capital. But the conventional banks, if they have a 9% share, so the 91% is there for them to expand on. They have Sharia boards available within the banks. They have tested the system. So, the learning which was required has already been done in the past 4 or 5 years by them coming over. So I think that is, in my view, that is the light at the end of the tunnel, is that the conventional banks will grow and hopefully occupy that, more and more of the blue pie chart. Next, please. Now this slide, I've really again focused on the conventional bank, because that should be the engine of growth and not just the Islamic banks. Is that like I said, the current portion of the Islamic windows is 9%, which is 1.86 trillion. And I've just put a number. I mean, it could be 5% or 4% or 7%, whatever. But if they grow 5% every year from that 9%, then in 5 years' time, we would add up, or by 2025, that Islamic window share will go to 30%. And the way dedicated Islamic banks are growing, I think, there will be a similar growth, because they were 11%, and if they can also be 30%, so really by 2025, if you really want, this industry can grow from the current combination of 19% between the two to maybe 50% to 60% in 5 years' time, if we really work on it. I think the only impediment I see, only one, is sukuk issuance. And obviously the enabling laws and all these things that will follow. But once sukuks are available, then the ecosystem actually generates. And if you see, the sukuk has been coming in the last 1 year, mashallah, very rapidly. And thank you to Ministry of Finance and State Bank for their efforts. But if that missing link is removed, and I'm sure it can be removed with Sharia scholars getting together, bringing more assets, I believe now they're looking at GT road for evaluation. Now GT road, compared to a normal motorway, could be very high in value because it's a very expensive piece of property. So there could be a lot of assets there. Then we can work on asset light structure. And obviously this portion of conventional bank, if it goes from 9% to 30%, and the Islamic bank going from 11% to also 25-30%, could really make that change, which the courts or the legislature is seeing. Next, please. So our vision when we started the bank, when I went to Dr. Ishrat in 2002, in fact we were in investment bank with 20 people. Our vision even at that time was to establish Islamic banking as banking of first choice. So really our focus would be to see conventional banking grow as well into more of Islamic, and so that this canvas is getting bigger. Next, please. Recently, I think last week only, Moody's released an article which confirmed that Islamic banking has materially outspaced the conventional banking, and they've estimated the average growth rate of 20% in deposits over the next few years. And they've also predicted that more banks will apply for Islamic banking license. And as a result, I feel that the conventional bank should take this as an opportunity to really say that instead of new banks applying for licenses, why don't we increase that market share from 8% to, inshallah, at least 20% or 30%. And this report also confirms that there was a 24% year-on-year growth over the last decade. So obviously this growth rate is at least twice as much as the conventional rate. Next, please. Although this CAP report by State Bank of Pakistan and DFID is a very old report, but 2 slides I felt was worth sharing. One is that a question was asked, and this was done by the State Bank team. I think Dr. Saab is not here today, who managed this. The question was asked to, I think, 10,000 households, that if they have a choice, would they switch to Islamic finance? And the answer was 74% yes, 17% not sure, and 9% no, right? So even this 17% not sure, I would say 50% they'll come. So if you take half of that, so you're really left with 20% who are not willing to switch to Islamic finance. But I'm sure those 20%, once they see the availability of Islamic finance and the ease which it happened, there's no reason why they would not come as well. But this is a very powerful indication to show why Islamic banking is growing. Meezan Bank, mashallah, has grown very fast, but I always say that the credit goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the demand pull which is coming to us. I don't think it's just our effort which has made it like that. I mean, everybody works very hard, but the success which we've got in the bank is reflective of what people actually want to see. So, I mean, that's why, we open a branch middle of nowhere and next day you see people walking in. So it's a pull factor which brings people to Islamic banking because of the faith reasons. Next slide, please. Again, this CAP study of State Bank shows there was a question asked to these 10,000 people, do you consider riba prohibited? And 94% people confirmed yes, they consider riba prohibited. So, you know, now we do ask a lot of questions that is riba the same riba or not. I think we've moved, you know, much ahead of that. So if 94% is like really 100%. So if they say that, you know, they feel riba is prohibited, that's why there's a preference toward Islamic banking, both in Islamic bank, dedicated banks and the conventional windows. And the other question was asked was that is conventional interest riba? And again, 88% of the people affirmed that yes, in their view, the conventional banking interest is riba, because, you know, we get into this debate of that riba is where it exceeds X% or Y% or whatever, but the general public response was that. Next, please. I think this is my last slide. As Madam Seema mentioned that in RDA there was a huge success of Islamic banking side. And Meezan Bank being one bank generated inflows of $1 billion out of the total country deposit of 4 billion. So really 25% of that came in one bank. And I keep telling my own team as well that we should ask that question, why? Why 25% of it came to Meezan Bank? Did we do, I mean, were we that smart? No. Did we market it a lot? No. We don't have a presence outside Pakistan. We have no representative office, no branches. The only reason it came was because they wanted Islamic. So it was not Meezan Bank which attracted this, it was the faith of Islamic banking, and Meezan Bank happens to be one bank which, you know, handled it well. So this success is an Islamic banking success, and I think as a regulator also you should feel that if it has happened there, this is what, you know, the cross section of our people would want to do. So I think with that I stop, and thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.